Who is the worst starting quarterback week 1 in the National Football League? Look, we can sit here and argue Brady or Rodgers. Maybe you want to throw Breeze into the mix because of historically he's put up ridiculous numbers. Last year a little bit down. You might want to put, Carson Wentz when he's back healthy, if he's back healthy. You might even throw in others like a Deshaun Watson who set the world on fire only for a couple weeks. There are other names. But I think it's actually more interesting who the 10 worst starting quarterbacks are week 1 in the National Football League. Here's what we did. We don't have a body of work on rookies. We chose to not include them. Be too easy to put Josh Allen 1, considering he's in Buffalo, he wasn't expected to start, and they're probably going to thrust him into duties with the injury to A.J. McCarron. So we took rookies out of it. Got to have a body of work. Here's number 10. Dak Prescott. I heard Colin earlier this week, the ultimate stabilizer, right? They weren't that stable last year when they didn't have Ezekiel Elliott. Dak Prescott's fine. Remember, he took over an absolute Corvette that had the best offensive line, a tremendous running game, Dez Bryant, Jason Witten, and they were really good his first year. But then when he was named the full-time starter and Tony Romo went to the booth and Dez Bryant aged and Jason Witten was so slow it looked like he was dragging a dead body and Ezekiel Elliott was suspended. Last year, 9-7, 62.9 completion percentage, 22 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, 86.6 passer rating, had 16 giveaways, tied for 7th most in the NFL. Some of it's based upon expectations. Some of it's based upon the idea they don't have a very good wide receiving core. Put Dak Prescott number 10. Marcus Mariota. I know he won the Heisman Trophy, and if you interview him, you want him to run for senator. You just do. And I get it. They had a comeback win in the playoffs against the Kansas City Chiefs. Maybe a better question is, who hasn't had a comeback win against the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs? Mariota's 20-22 as starting quarterback, threw more interceptions than touchdowns last season. In 3 seasons, his passer rating is 25th in the NFL during that span. 25th. You do the math. There's 32 teams. 25th is not great. They've tried to change things. They fired their coach all to try and fix Marcus Mariota. If he needs to be fixed, that means he's broken. He's number 9. Case Keenum. Mark Schlereth sat right here and said he can play. I do think he can play. As a backup. As a full-time starter, gets exposed. We saw it last year in the NFC Championship game. They're just throws that he can't make. Keenum had 3 turnovers, 2 picks, 1 fumble in that 38-7 loss to the Eagles, and the Vikings had better talent. They had dudes. He signed, part of this is expectations. 2-year, $36 million deal with the Broncos in March. He's 9-15 as a starting quarterback prior to the 2017 season. Remember, he wasn't a starting quarterback for bad teams. He was a starting quarterback for the Houston Texans. That's a playoff roster. He was a starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. That's a playoff roster. He's a really, really good backup. He's a great story. He is not a great quarterback. Tyrod Taylor might not have made this list. Tyrod Taylor, on the other hand, that's a joke. I know he led the Bills to the playoffs last year, but like Marcus Mariota, the only reason the Bills and the Titans got to the playoffs is the Chargers didn't have a field goal kicker to start the season. The Ravens completely choked. Deshaun Watson got hurt. Go through all the injuries and dysfunction within the AFC, and that's the reason that the Bills got to the playoffs. Hell, Andy Dalton helped get the Bills to the playoffs. That's why so many funded his charity from Buffalo. 3 seasons as a starter, he's never thrown more than 20 touchdown passes. He's fine. 202 yards per game since 2015. 200 yards a game passing is not elite quarterback stuff. Look, he's going to hold this thing together in Cleveland, get the ball out to his wide receivers, and eventually be replaced by Baker Mayfield. He's somewhere in between starter and backup and seems to be a great guy and a great story and a good leader for a dysfunctional bunch in Cleveland. But there's a reason that he's not in Baltimore and not in Buffalo anymore, and that he's in Cleveland, one of the bottom 10 in the National Football League. Eli Manning. I'm not talking Eli Manning historically through his career. I'm talking Eli Manning now at 37 years old. They were 3-13 last year. He got benched for Geno Smith. Man, he got benched for Geno Smith? Yeah, he got benched for Geno Smith. He got benched for Geno Smith. 169 giveaways since 2010. Most in the NFL. The next closest is Phillip Rivers, and he's got him by 20. Led the NFL in interceptions 3 times over. Best way to get yourself beat is to lose the turnover battle, and Eli Manning makes a habit of it. I'm not talking prime or playoff Eli Manning. I'm talking regular season 37-year-old Eli Manning, number 6. Blake Bortles. They had the ball with 59 seconds to go and the lead in New England, and they took a knee. Why? Because Jacksonville knows what we all know. He's better than he used to be, but he still's not good. 21-40 as starting quarterback, 64 interceptions since 2014. He had the number 2 defense in football last season. They didn't believe in him. Why should we believe in him? Blake Bortles is better, but they probably should have traded for Eli last year and got marginally better. They might have gotten to a Super Bowl. Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill has 2 4,000-yard seasons. Okay? But since his rookie year, his passer rating is 31st in the NFL. Jay Cutler, by the way, now retired and a reality show star. And I mean reality show star, right? Jay Cutler, much better. You feel much better with his surly technique, surly attitude as a reality show star than you do back in the NFL. Anyway, his passer rating is lower than Jay Cutler's. Dolphin fans were actually relieved when Jay Cutler replaced him last year when Ryan Tannehill had a torn ACL. I know 2 years ago he set the world afire with 27 touchdowns and like 10 interceptions. They're putting a lot of faith in him now that they've stripped him down of Jarvis Landry. Not buying it, and coming off an ACL that he missed an entire season. We'll put Ryan Tannehill as number 4. Another backup who went to Harvard. Are you aware that Ryan Fitzpatrick went to Harvard? Yeah, I did. Oh, and Jerome Bettis is from Detroit. These are the 2 most overtold stories in all of the National Football League. 35 years old. A below 60% completion percentage since 2005. He's a great backup, and he can fill in. He had the 1 year with the Jets, and then he held out for big money. He does have a fantastic beard and mustache combo, and he went to Harvard. Outside of that, dude, he doesn't have much arm. Not much arm. And he's played for 7 different teams for a reason. Mitch Trubisky. We don't have a lot to work with. He didn't have a lot to work with last year, but he was drafted and played for a quarterback guru. And, he passed for 182.8 yards per game last season. That's the second fewest in the NFL. The only one with less was Brett Hundley, who didn't win the backup job with the Green Bay Packers. That's why they traded him in Seattle. In 12 games, he threw 7 touchdown passes. He was great at handing the ball off. And that's the skill you need least in the National Football League. We don't have a ton of data to work with, but so far the data is not good. Not a lot of confidence in Chicago. They made the right call trading up for Mitch Trubisky. And the worst starting quarterback in the National Football League, per our group, per me personally, I'm taking ownership of it. Some of it's based upon expectations. He's the Super Bowl MVP. He had 1 year, 29 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. But boy, Nick Foles does not look good. And he's regressing towards the mean, maybe even past the mean so far in the preseason. Great guy, great story, out of football, didn't want to be traded because he wants to be the backup for a reason. That's what he is. Huge expectations because of how well he played in the NFC Championship game in the Super Bowl. But people forget he was a mess when he was first named starting quarterback last year with the Eagles. It was not good. You go back to the disaster at the end of the run with the Rams and how he's looked in the preseason. Out of football for a reason. 69.0 passer rating over the last 3 seasons. In 3 regular season starts last year, before the playoffs, where he played better, didn't play well against Atlanta, played better, obviously, really good against Minnesota and great in the Super Bowl. A 54% completion percentage. 54%. That's like Blutarski level in the National Football League. Nick Foles, your 32nd best or best bad starter in the National Football League.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.